Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is set to hit $1 billion at the box office worldwide. But is it a success or is it a flop? That's the question I'm going to be speaking about on today's MBE Movie News. And look guys, this topic is coming in from a wide array of different articles that I have been diving my little bookworm nose into. Quite frankly, it's coming from the likes of Screen Rant, Forbes and a whole array of other websites who are discussing this movie in a wide array of different manners in terms of box office, artistic merit, multiple cuts, and just how this has all impacted the greater movie-going audience, and how this has perhaps shaped the narrative of this movie in terms of it being a box office success or a bit of a dumpster fire, if you are maybe of the frame of mind of the fandom menace or whatnot. I am not in the fandom menace, nor am I in the little sycophantic Disney can do no wrong camp. I do love a good Disney movie. I am a big fan of the studio. I grew up watching their animated classics and I love what they do in the main. Haven't been hugely appreciative of how they have handled certain elements of this Star Wars sequel trilogy, and so as I gibber off nonsensically starting the show, it's perhaps not the best start. I will dive into just the general gist of what I'm going to be speaking about here. This movie has to date grossed over $900 million at the box office. It has dropped another 51% in its third weekend. It's kind of tripping over the line of the $1 billion mark. It is expected to cross that milestone this weekend, but the way that it's currently obviously grossing in terms of domestically in the United States and in the greater world, it is not going to hit the numbers of The Last Jedi, which of course grossed just over $1.3 billion at the box office. Now, for any other franchise on the planet, from any other studio, this would be heralded as an almighty success. We've seen that with Joker earlier on this year. It grossed over $1 billion. We've seen it even from Disney as well, with the likes of Frozen 2. We've seen it with Aladdin. We've seen it with The Lion King, Toy Story 4. So many movies from that one studio grossing over $1 billion. So it's kind of, and obviously Avengers Endgame finally toppling Avatar at the box office to become the king worldwide, just shy of $2.8 billion. So as I was about to say before I went off on a sidetrack and spoke about Avengers Endgame, having taken all of that into mind, it is then rather strange to be speaking negatively of this movie, a movie which has grossed over, or will gross over $1 billion, and slanting it as a potential flop. But this is Star Wars, and people have been accustomed to these movies grossing a specific amount of money and having a certain flair as they do it as well, in terms of what they bring to the box office, in terms of what they bring to audiences, taking them off in an experience. Now look, we did a lengthy review of this movie. I'm not going to go too far into the artistic merits of this movie. I really enjoyed certain elements of it and I really hated other elements. I did admit that I vocally shouted out "for fuck's sake" at more than a few moments in this movie. So I am by no means sycophantic of this movie at all. I can see its flaws, and there are many, and I can also see its positives, but it didn't have that artistic flair we've came accustomed to seeing from Star Wars movies, which we've seen in The Force Awakens. Even to a degree, The Last Jedi had some elements where it felt Star Wars-ish. A few, not many. But look, who didn't get goosebumps watching Luke go out and take on those walkers or stand up to them? Fear is, of course, facing fear is the job of a Jedi, of course. But look, do I think this is a flop? Do I think it's a success? Well, I think it's neither. In terms of raw numbers, it's probably a minor success, given how this movie has been received critically, given the very fractured nature of the fan base. I do apologise, I'm getting lots of messages here. It's knocking me off of my flow. But yeah, given that the fractured nature of the fan base and whatnot, I don't feel like Disney could have expected much more than what they've got. I think the high watermark for this movie would have been the $1.2 to $1.3 billion mark, maybe going par with the Last Jedi, but that always felt like a bit of a fantasy. Too many people have been put off in terms of what they did with the sequel trilogy. The handling of Luke, the handling of Leia, the handling of Han, in a certain sense, although I actually enjoyed Han in The Force Awakens. And I just feel like, and this is something that was touched upon in another article, that it was fantastical that this movie would ever get anywhere near the figures of The Force Awakens. I think it was Forbes who touched upon it, where they says that The Force Awakens perhaps set an unrealistic expectation for these Star Wars movies and what people assumed that each one would gross at the beginning of the Disney era. That was a zeitgeist movie. It came in after 32 years of no real continuation of the original trilogy, at least on the silver screen, the golden screen, what am I talking about? The golden compass. So you can't really compare that movie to any of the other ones which came subsequently, because it's unrealistic. It was a zeitgeist moment. Fans of all demographics went along and celebrated seeing Star Wars once again. I'm completely discarding the prequels here, but it's a different thing. This was connecting onto the original trilogy. So also that movie grossed over $2 billion. It was an immense success. I think it's still the all-time #1 grosser in the United States. And it's really unrealistic to then expect The Last Jedi, Rogue One, Solo, and now The Rise of Skywalker to then eclipse or even equal the success of that movie. That should be viewed as a completely distinct entity. It set the bar very high, but everything that came afterwards was never realistically going to touch that. If it was so easy for movies to gross over $2 billion worldwide at the box office, then we'd see it every single year. And although it feels like we have seen it every year in recent times because of Avengers and whatnot, I'm pretty damn sure there's only 3 other movies ever topped the $2 billion mark, so it's not an easy task for a studio to accomplish. And there really has to be a desire there from a fan base to see and consume what we're seeing on the screen. And as I did say, without repeating myself 20 million times, they have not handled this sequel trilogy very well. They being Kathleen Kennedy, Bob Iger. It was discombobulated all over the place. There was no one solitary creative vision. Numerous directors coming in, numerous firings. Colin Trevorrow was supposed to do episode 9. He was fired because he didn't agree with the creative direction. And so that completely neutered the sequel trilogy in that regard. But look, it is what it is. It's going to gross over $1 billion. I'm sure they'll move on to pastures now with the monkey off their back, and we may or may not see Star Wars going off to greater successes. I will get into another Star Wars topic. I feel like this is a Force Friday show light. We're supposed to have gave that up. There wasn't meant to be Star Wars news, but this is like the claw in the back. It's not letting go. It's still speaking about the Rise of Skywalker. But the final thing I would add, Star Wars has always been a franchise which didn't marry itself well to the annual releases. My dog's actually having a bad dream here. He may be dreaming about Star Wars. It was always a franchise which released every 3 or 4 years, and therefore there was just enough time to wait between each movie for it to become an event, maybe on a smaller scale to what we've seen in The Force Awakens. People were building up their anticipation, and by the time it came around they were very excited, and therefore, sans inflation, these movies always made lots and lots of money, even by today's standards. And I feel like it was probably, in hindsight, it's always good with 2020 hindsight to look back, but I feel like Disney perhaps made the wrong decision by continuing to try and release these movies annually. It was never a franchise which was a right fit for that sort of release model. Not like Marvel, where they can release 3-4 movies a year because they have so much stories and so much great, colourful, different characters to mine off of. Star Wars isn't like that. It's all coming out of one trilogy of movies from 30-40 years ago, and therefore much more harder to flesh it out and make it interesting on a yearly release schedule. But look guys, I've not got much more to add. Is it a success? Is it a failure? Somewhere in between. I don't think it's a complete flop because it's going to gross over $1 billion, although morally it feels like it's maybe a flop, if you like, because it's not made the money that anyone would have expected. Even in its shittest, it should have been grossing 1.1 to 1.2 billion, and look, who knows, maybe it still will, so maybe I'm talking shite. But it's not a success either, not a chance. But look guys, I'm going to move on, before I dig myself a hole, on to the next topic, and it's all about the future of Star Wars. And one particular direction we may very well be going. This one is coming from Screen Rant, and it's speaking about the next film saga being rumoured to be set in the midst of the High Republic era, which takes place a whopping 400 years prior to the Skywalker saga. Now, this isn't quite Old Republic era, this is High Republic era, so it's not really what anyone wants. But I suppose it's Disney perhaps differentiating itself from preconceived ideas from characters and whatnot, which we had before in the EU. Maybe just sliding it into a little place in time where we don't know much about what was going on, unless I'm mistaken. And it maybe gives them some breathing room to create some colourful new characters, antagonists, protagonists, and some colourful new settings, planets, and give us something different, something fresh, because even though I want to see the Old Republic, and I still believe it will happen firmly at some point in the near to medium future, there is, again, much like the Skywalker saga, preconceived ideas, preconceived theories about characters and locations which are set in stone via the EU from a fan base which is already rabid and fractured, and therefore it's quite dangerous coming off the back of the ill handling of the Skywalker saga, to then begin going thrust into or being thrust into another saga with characters like Darth Raven, Darth Bane and whatnot, and maybe the excess baggage that would entail. It'd be dangerous for Disney, so I can understand them perhaps going down this route and picking the High Republic era, because it would give them less of a chance of failure. If people have no expectations of characters, then they go in maybe with less burden. They go in with more hopeful looks at what the hell they're going to get. And look, few people could slate Disney for the actual visual epic scales of these movies. They have in the main been pretty damn impressive in their scale and visuals and whatnot, and on a technical level. All Star Wars movies are. They've always been pioneering movies from one degree or another. But look, I don't know anything about this actual era, so I can't speak from any real authority about what the hell we could be getting here. It just says High Republic. I think this is after the fall of the Sith Empire, and it's very much in the midst of peace, I would like to say. The Republic are in power, and maybe the Jedi Order has defeated or vanquished, whatever word you want to use, the Sith Empire. And it's very interesting. It'd be very cool to see new technology, maybe new locales, as I did say. No idea whether this is what David Beinoff and DB Weiss had in mind. Something tells me it may very well have been. So it'll be intriguing to then see who we get as overseeing, all-hearing, omnipotent, maybe showrunners or film runners, I don't know, producers like Kevin Feige. Will it be Feige who'll come in? That will be intriguing. Who will be directing it? Maybe we'll get to see a Taika Waititi stepping in. He's of course dipped his feet into the mucky waters of directing Star Wars things through The Mandalorian, so very exciting to see them going off into a new saga, an interconnecting saga of films, in a new place, in a new time, where there is not much known, and now we can maybe see Disney flexing their muscles and seeing if they can give us an interesting set of Star Wars movies without the fandom menace going off their head and trying to murder everyone involved, the likes of Kathleen Kennedy. Of course, she won't be there in this new slate of movies. It will most definitely be perhaps Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni or maybe even Kevin Feige. Less likely now though that he is obviously the all-seeing top guy at Marvel as a whole. But yeah, all in all, it's ripe for a new franchise to be created. It's ripe for new characters. It's just ripe for a new start, and that seems like the best thing Disney could possibly be doing at this moment in time. But look guys, I am a solid 14 to 15 minutes in. I will briefly, and I mean briefly, touch upon the last calendar year in terms of raw box office numbers, because this movie news show is primarily about box office. The Monday, I will of course be breaking down the top 10 movies in the United Kingdom's box office at the end of the show, and this one's quite simply coming from Screen Rant again, incidentally, about 2019 at the US box office, falling below 2018, it's now 2 years back's overall performance. It grossed 11 point something, I can't get the goddamn figures in front of me, which is really disappointing, 11.364 billion over the calendar year of 2019, which takes it shy of the 11.9 billion of 2018. Now this surprises me quite a bit when you look at some of the movies which have come out last year. The likes of Avengers Endgame, the likes of The Lion King, the likes of Aladdin, Toy Story 4, The Rise of Skywalker, Lord knows we've got Joker grossing over $1 billion. But then, equally, it doesn't really surprise me because we have had quite a lacklustre summer period in that last calendar year. The likes of Godzilla, King of the Monsters and whatnot, falling shy of expectations in terms of raw box office numbers. I don't believe Hobbs and Shaw did all that great, circa $600-700 million. So despite having some powerhouse figures in there, the likes of Endgame and The Rise of Skywalker, which I did speak about as not performing to the expectations, there was some shite performances in the mix too. So yeah, I don't feel this is the end of times for movie-going numbers or audiences. I don't feel like this is perhaps the passing of baton over from cinema-going experiences to raw streaming service experiences. Because as they do say here in the article, it's the third highest grossing calendar year in the history of film. So it's not like it's the end of times by any means. And as I will quickly get into, we are going to an even quieter year this year in terms of films being released, in terms of perhaps raw box office numbers. This will be an even slower year than 2019 was. We don't have big ensemble releases here. We don't have 30-40 years worth of Saga culminative movies coming out. No, we have the likes of Black Widow, a movie which is perhaps 10 years too late. We have The Eternals, which could be an absolute hit if they do it right, and let's be honest, Kevin Feige will probably do it right. But likewise, there's always a chance in this transition period for it to not do what we all expect it to do. And we also have the likes of Disney's Mulan, which I expect to be a success because I really like the look of that movie. And there we have Onward, which is it's okay. And then you have the likes of Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 1984 and No Time to Die, a Bond movie. You know that will hit hard in the United Kingdom, probably go into the top 10 all-time grossing if it's anyways half decent. But all in all, it's not an amazing year in terms of blockbuster movies, but we do have Top Gun in there as well, Maverick, so who knows, maybe it will do better than expected. Lord knows, maybe I am talking shite. I have been called a moron before for just skimming across news articles on the internet, perhaps not knowing a damn thing about what I'm talking about. Well, I'll politely disagree about that. Big film fan, have been my whole life, and I think I know a thing or two, certainly when it comes to box office. But yeah, who knows, maybe it won't be an absolute success, but I do expect, maybe it will be an absolute success, if I should say. I'm getting all discombobulated here, but I would suspect this will be an even slower calendar year this year in terms of box office numbers, before we then go into a massive 2021 with Avatar 2 and The Suicide Squad, The Batman, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man Homecoming 3, a whole array of massive movies, Thor Love and Thunder coming out. So it's not all doom and gloom, essentially. That's what I'm getting at. It's a long-winded tangent I've went off in there. 2019, slightly below the last year. 2020, maybe a dumpster fire for box office numbers, but it may be an awakening of artistic brilliance, who knows. Certainly it's starting very well for us. Jojo Rabbit in 1917 coming out, and an array of other movies like The Girl with the Portrait on Fire, I want to say that is the name of the movie. So for a raw artistic start to the year, it's pretty damn tasty, I have to say. But look guys, time will tell. I don't really care about it. I go and see movies and regardless. I love going to the cinema. It's one of my fun passions in life. And if other people don't join me and it makes movies maybe a little less successful overall, then so be it. Maybe we'll go back to rom-coms like Jennifer Aniston, if I can say her name, wants us to do. A renaissance for Meg Ryan. Who knows, that wouldn't be so bad, would it? But look guys, I'm done with today's article news section of the show, and I'm now going to jump right over and do the box office breakdown for the weekend of December 27th to 29th, 2019. It was last year now, but I'm always a week behind, as you would rightly know. I'm just checking the time there. Get about 10 minutes to rattle through this. Let's see if I can do it. Coming in at number 1 this week, once again, is Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Now, of course, because it was in the midst of the holiday season last week, we didn't do a Monday show in the traditional sense. We did our top 10 worst movies of 2019, so I didn't speak about the box office last week. But this movie is in its second weekend and it has grossed another $12.2 million. I don't know why they give us dollars, it's Britain. Give us pounds, Box Office Mojo. Taking its total grossing to $51.3 million overall here on the British Isles. I predicted this movie would gross overall, I think, 60 to 70 million pounds. And when you convert that, That's roughly about £42 million. That's not amazing. I think The Force Awakens opened with that, maybe even The Last Jedi in its first week. So it's not great numbers. We're not doing a bit over here to support the performance of The Rise of Skywalker. And I would say this movie would stagger over 60 million at the end of its grossing here. So I think I'm probably good for my little prediction for this movie's performance. And like I've spoke about it, it's grossed over $900 million overall. It is what it is. It's the end of an era in terms of Skywalkers. Disney don't care. They've grossed a ridiculous amount of money. And they'll go off, have a little hiatus and come back stronger than ever, I'm absolutely sure, with a whole new slate of movies. But look, coming in at number 2 this week is Jumanji: The Next Level. It's in its third weekend. It's grossed another $4.8 million, taking its total grossing here to $28 million, which is not amazing either. It has to be said. That is pretty damn poor numbers for a movie which had a really successful prequel. Is that what you'd call the first movie? I don't know. This is a sequel. It's not great. It really isn't. But this movie, I think, is doing pretty damn decent overall. A $610.2 million grossing worldwide. Not to be snide at. $125 million budget. It's made a profit. And I think we'll see more Jumanji movies in the future. That's just the raw pull power of Dwayne Johnson and the likes of Kevin Hart and Jack Black and Karen Gillan coming back. People have developed a bond with these characters and they want to see what new adventures they are getting up to. I've not seen it yet. I don't know if I will go and see it now, to be honest. I liked Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, but some mixed reviews on this one have got me pondering whether it's worthy of wasting my time. I probably will go and watch it. I've got an unlimited card, there's no excuse really. But guys, number 3 in this week's box office is Little Women. It is a new release and it has grossed $3.6 million, taking its total grossing to $4.7 million. Overall, in the United Kingdom, it has got an $80.4 million overall performance. I don't have budgetary information, but this is a remake of a remake of a remake, I think. We've had about 50 Little Women movies. This one, I think, stars Emma Watson, Saoirse Ronan, and a few other prominent names in there to boot. And by all, I think Timothée Chalamet's in there as well. By all accounts, it's a pretty damn decent little movie. Period piece. I never seen the original. I think that had a whole array of very talented actresses as well. I may give this a watch. I think it was 70% female, the demographic it went to see it, but like I've always been in touch with my feminine side anyway, so maybe I'll go and watch it in drag, Lord knows. But look guys, I don't need to go. It's doing very well on its own without me. Number 4 this week, I'll move on before I dig myself a hole, is Frozen 2, and it is in its 6th weekend. It's grossed another $2.7 million, taking its total grossing here in the United Kingdom to just shy of $60 million. That is very impressive indeed for an animated sequel, and this movie has actually just became the number 1 all-time grossing animated movie, with a worldwide grossing of $1.3 billion, not million, $1.3 billion overall. So hats off to everyone involved on that production and to Disney once again. They just know how to make sequels with ear-worm-inducing music that cater to a wide array of demographics, and that really does show itself at the box office, where they just continue to rake the money in. They don't need it, but Lord knows they keep making it anyway. Well, maybe they do. They did take over another studio after all. But look guys, number 5 this weekend is Cats. Coming off of its first weekend where it came in at number 2, it's dropped 3 spots in its second weekend. It is a disaster for this movie. It's a disaster for Tom Hooper, and it's grossed another $2.4 million over the weekend. It's up 21 theatres, it's down 41%, and it's grossed just $10 million overall. That's an absolute shocker for this movie. To be quite frank with you, musicals over here have been hitting it out the box, or hitting it out the park I should say, year after year. Greatest Showman, Rocketman, La La Land, the list is endless. Success after success after success, so much so we have seen, I also forget this guy's name, the guy that did Moulin Rouge, taking up the rights of Elvis Presley, taking up the rights of Michael Jackson and try to produce biopic musicals because it's a renaissance just now. But this movie, of course an Andrew Lloyd Webber adaptation, it's just not hit off at all. I've seen it and it's an absolute pile of shit, and that's me being as kind as I can possibly be. Apparently we're so bleak on movies. Well, this movie deserves to be looked at via a bleak perspective because it is pish. Now, I've not seen the theatre theatrical production, maybe I should go and watch it, because that is how this should be consumed. It shouldn't be consumed adapted for film, because it has no real distinctive plot. It's threadbare. They have a whole array of amazing actors in there, and not even they can save this movie. It was shit, and it was in, I think, number 3 or 4 in our all-time worst of the last calendar year, 2019, of course. I'm done speaking about it. I'm moving on to number 6, Spies in Disguise. It's a new release. It has grossed $1.9 million overall, and in its first weekend, because it is a new release. This is an animated Disney release. I have not got a clue about it. I did like the look of the trailer though, but I don't know what's going on. I take it's a nerdy spy movie, Lord knows. $88.8 million worldwide. What the hell is this? This company just can't do no wrong. They really can't. They release some random animated movie and it grosses nearly $100 million. Jesus Christ, isn't it? It's a license to print money from this company. I've not got much more to add. It's grossed what it's grossed. It's opened 549 theatres. It's a reasonably large push, and perhaps they'll try to target that holiday season, school, it's being shut demographic. I don't know. But look, I'm moving on to number 7. Playing with Fire has come in, and its opening weekend grossed just shy of $1 million dollars in its opening weekend overall. It's a Paramount Pictures release. Looks like another family, I can't bloody speak just now, movie. And apparently, no, I know what this is. I'm talking shite. I reacted to the trailer for this. I've just seen the poster. It's a John Cena movie. A crew of rugged firefighters meet their matchman attempting to rescue 3 rambunctious kids. I know what this is. This movie got some terrible critical response, I do believe. Apparently it's a pile of shit, really disappointing, which surprised me, because in terms of the trailer it seemed to look like a reasonably funny experience. Cena looked out of his depth trying to deal with these little kids. It looked okay. I probably went and give it a bash, but after the critical response I'm not going to watch it now. But look, $54 million overall worldwide isn't to be laughed at. It's not too bad for a middling to poor Paramount release. Coming in at number 8 is Knives Out. It's dropped 2 spots on its previous weekend. It's its 5th weekend. It's up 28.1%. It's down 36 theatres. And overall, it has grossed $247 million worldwide. I went to see this movie. It was one of my favourite movies of last year. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought Rian Johnson created a really cool whodunit movie with a myriad of different plot twists. Such incredible performances, really dialogue heavy. It had tension, it had laughs, black comedy galore. Really liked it, and I would highly urge anyone who hasn't yet seen it to go out and give it a bash, because it's thoroughly deserving of its very, very good box office showing. So yeah, not much more to add to that. I'm going to move on to number 9, which is Good News, with 2 W's and a Z. This is a Z Studios release. I have never heard of Z Studios, and it's opened with $386.8 thousand. I don't know what I'm saying, 0.8. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. I think this is perhaps a foreign language release without knowing anything about it whatsoever. It's got a reasonably wide release. I think it's released in the States as well, and it's grossed $10.9 million, so can't have had the biggest budget, and that's a not bad showing whatsoever, so hats off to them. And I'm going to move on to the final movie on today's breakdown of the United Kingdom's box office, and it is Last Christmas, clinging in there from some last minute holiday festive spirits. It's about to dissipate, though it's already dissipated for me. I'm back to work again, and yeah, £218,000 over its, or dollars I should say, I keep saying pounds, over its last weekend, over this weekend I should say. It is last because I'm a week behind, but it is what it is. 74.2%. It's dropped 217 theatres. It's on its way out. It's dropped 200 theatres as well. Can't really complain though overall with the performance. $22.9 million and $120.7 million overall. It was a decent little movie, let's be honest here. It was decent, a little bit of everything. Amelia Clarke was very good. I liked Henry Golding, and I liked the twist at the end. That was very intriguing, and I wasn't expecting it in the slightest. So it is what it is. It's made its money over the Christmas period, and hats off to it. But look guys, that is going to round up today's box office breakdown, and it's going to round up today's MBE movie news as well. What do you make about the topics I spoke about? Is the Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker a box office flop, a success, or somewhere in between? What do you make about Star Wars going off to the High Republic 400 years before the Skywalker saga for the next slate of movies? And what do you make about last year's slightly below par compared to 2018 box office performance. If you've got anything to say, you can comment below and let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. And if you do, then you'll see me back again tomorrow with Stephen for another episode of NBA Heroes.